podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
All right, here for the midweek pod, and we're talking about Manchester United 7, Barnsley 0 from 1997. We're doing a retrospective, right? Here with Wayne. How are you doing, sir?
I am absolutely buzzing, Ed. How are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Yeah. United's largest win under Ten Hag by some distance.
Yep.
I think, am I right in saying it's our largest ever win in the League Cup as well?
First time we've scored 9 since, but the first time we scored 7, exactly 7, since we beat Barnsley 7-0 in 97. Yeah, some good, for once, some good landmark numbers there.
Well, we were just looking over who scored in 1997. Hat-trick from Andy Cole, 2 from Ryan Giggs, a goal from Paul Scholes, and capping it all off, an 80th minute, 7th goal from Karol Poborski.
Yeah. Can you remember that goal?
I can't, no.
Back heel flick.
Back heel flick. Oh, yeah, now I can. Yeah.
Some good goals in there. Giggs scored, it was a dribble from halfway, and then he cut in and scored with his right foot. Scholes was a little dink over the goalkeeper. I think Scholes has won goal of the month. Well, considering that United scored all the goals that month in that game. You know what? That reminded me, because I was thinking, obviously, the 7-0 has brought a lot of comparison. Well, brought a lot of things to mind of that game. Because of the scoreline. And I was looking back at that team, and we were scoring a lot of goals that autumn. And that was the team just after Cantona retired and just after Keane got injured. I'm going to posit a theory to you, Ed. A largely redundant, meaningless theory, which is the best Wayne Barton kind of theories on this podcast. It wasn't Keane and Cantona, their absence cost us the title that season. I'm going to throw a different thing. I think it's all the other injuries that we got later on. I think we could have won the league without Keane and Cantona. We were that good. I know Arsenal were great.
Yeah,
and it
was a very good Arsenal side, yeah. Yeah.
But I still feel that without the injuries, Schmeichel, Giggs, notably, I think some games you have Phil Neville on the left wing, but those two notably, I think that we could have won the league that season.
Yeah, well, it was only a point or something, wasn't it, in the end?
Exactly. It's not the world's most groundbreaking theory given, but it's a theory nonetheless.
Very good. Well, United 7, Barnsley 0 in 2024. I wonder how we'll be thinking about this in 30 years' time. Well, we might not be thinking of it. Given our age, Wayne, we might not be thinking about it at all.
That's not optimistic at all. No, but it's a good point because if you remember, it was only 2 or 3 years ago in COVID when we beat Southampton 9-0. And I don't think we remember that anywhere near as fondly as the 9-0 against Ipswich. Yeah,
no.
All right.
No.
So,
in which Andy Cole scored 5. Obviously loves scoring goals against lesser teams. Flat track bully that he was. No, fine player Andy Cole was. All right. 2024, 7-0. I didn't see this coming. I mean, United actually historically under Ten Hag, last couple of years under Ten Hag, haven't really battered anyone.
No.
And against lesser opposition, even tended to play down to their level. And this was not the case. I mean, it was very, very much picking up from, I guess, the last hour against Southampton, which was very good. First half hour was not. And then coming into this game, huge amount of changes Ten Hag made, but just looked creative, attacking. Marcus Rashford on it, Alejandro Garnacho on it. This was not a bad word to be said. I know it's Barnsley. I know it's the League Cup, but we can enjoy this, can't we? And while I'm talking about enjoying it, Danny Baker, who back in the day I quite enjoyed as a pundit on the radio or radio host and fairly entertaining. And I don't know whether he still does his show or not. And tweeted out, United fans are beating Barnsley. United are beating Barnsley. United fans think they're beating Barcelona. You sad little man. You sad little man. Why can't you enjoy a game of football and enjoy? I mean, fans are allowed to enjoy a win, or should we all be donning black and going, woe is us, we've only won 7-0.
Yeah. I don't think anyone was under the misapprehension of what it was and what it wasn't. You might have a few people carried away, but in the main, really, I think we all knew it was Barnsley. You said no negatives, and there isn't really, apart from the first 25 minutes weren't great, Ed. We were watching it, and they were a bit boring. I mean, it was the same old cycle of get the ball back to Maguire and let Maguire do what he wants in the middle. And I have got to say, I don't really see anything wrong with his form over the last few months of last season and the start of this season. I think he's been fine. Apart from, he wasn't great against Brighton, but I'm talking critical standards of the past where we've been quite mean to him. You and I have both done that.
What's he talking about? I love Harry Maguire. Never said a bad word about him.
But in general, he's been all right. But if a League One team are allowing a player all the time, they're pressing everyone else, but they're allowing one player time on the ball, they've already got that tactical setup. You know it's a problem with the tactic. We really needed that first goal yesterday. It did take a little bit of time to come, and it didn't look. I mean, there are a couple of occasions where we were trying to hit that pass to get behind the defence in order to open it up. And I get it. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time, and it did take a little bit of time to get that chance. And the passes were falling. In that first 25 minutes, were falling a little bit short. Eriksen was trying to gamble for Garnacho and Rashford in there. Amusingly, once or twice. Also trying to use Anthony's pace, which I think we've all agreed, even he's agreed he doesn't have. But Eriksen, the optimist, trying to find it where there is none, trying to play those passes. But yeah, we that's the only grumble I have, is that it looks a bit samey and predictable for that first 20 minutes. But what can you say then? We did the job that was in front of us. I thought it was really, we were talking a couple of weeks ago about the Italian guy with the clean finish, and we had a lot of clean finishes last night. Rashford's first was just beautiful.
It's a lovely goal all round. I mean, the pass from Garnacho, switch of play, and Rashford just direct and positive, and that's what we want to see from him, right? That's when he's at his best, when he's running at players. He's not tentative, he's just doing it naturally. And I guess the goal at the weekend has really given him that boost in confidence. Hopefully. Because he might not have done that otherwise. I mean, he, as was well noted a couple of weeks ago, on one occasion checked back when he had the chance to run at some Liverpool players and got booed by the crowd, and none of that last night. Ran at the players, they all backed off and were scared of him, and he stuck in the top corner. Perfect start. Lovely goal.
A lot of other clean goals as well. Garnacho's second was really good. Eriksen's second, the fizzing of the passes around that was really, really nice to see. And I mean, we did create a lot of chances after that, and it's a Premier League side against a League One side without the important thing is, like you said there, we've not done that a lot. We've not done that a lot in the post-Ferguson era. We did. The funny thing is, under Ollie, we registered a few 5s and 6s under Ollie. Yeah. We didn't do that under any of the other managers. And I will err on the side of where I've just been fairly pessimistic or negative there. I've generally been on that side where I've said, well, once the players are back, we'll start to see a more coherent system. And that was a second string last night, which has passed for our first string often last season. And they played in the best way. I mean, I grumbled there about the first 20 minutes, but you got to give credit to Barnsley for putting everyone behind the ball and making themselves, giving United a question to answer. Sure. And they answered it. So, you can't really. I mean, all of it was nice. Had some really nice morale boosting moments, some good finishes. Nice to see Eriksen as well get a couple of goals. Nice to see Bruno and Manu get arrested. The only thing I would have changed, I wouldn't.
Bruno came on for the last half an hour. It's completely unnecessary. Although apparently he was nibbling at Ten Hag for the whole game. So
arrest by his standards. So it was the same as they used to say about Cantona and Rooney, that Fergie would hate them being sat on the bench next to him because they'd always want to be on the pitch. I bet Bruno's exactly the same as that. I mean, I don't really have a grumble about this. I did before the match about the possibility of playing some of the kids, because the kids who scored good goals against Barnsley a couple of weeks ago, but it was a different Barnsley team and it was a different United team, and we have to give those players a chance to get some minutes on the pitch. And they did,
most of the team were players who needed minutes. last night and just haven't played an awful lot. I mean, I think Garnacho's first start of the season, wasn't it? And Anthony's as well. What did you make of Anthony's generous working of the goalkeeper to win the penalty?
If the goalkeeper had dived as magnificently, then he might have saved it. It's one of those that now passes as a penalty because the player has made it look like contact was unavoidable, rather than contact being the point of which awards the penalty. Do you know, which was a bit strange. The one, all right, people are going to talk about that, but because that became a talking point, nobody talks about what was definitely a red card challenge on Ugarte.
Oh God!
It was disgusting. I can't believe
right down the front of his shin and then stood on the top of his foot. / ankle. Yeah, no, it was pretty horrendous challenge. Worse than the one at the weekend.
But he came out for the second half, so he's obviously not Owen Hargreaves, which is.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't it be classic United under Ten Hag? Brand new player comes in for his first game, gets injured straight away.
Yeah,
touch wood. It was just a nasty looking cut and no additional damage, which it seems like it's not. Yeah, I mean, Anthony dived. It is one of those things where I think the rules say if he has to jump to avoid the goalkeeper, that's also a penalty.
Yeah,
because the goalkeeper's made him do that and he lost control of the ball as a result. So I guess that's a penalty. He's won it in the way that you do, and then they gave it to him. Very generous of them to allow him a goal. There you go. He's now got 50% of the goals that he scored last season. So good on you, Anthony, on your way.
Yeah, I don't mind that so much because we did that last season with Rashford at Everton.
Yeah.
It's a trait of the squad, and I think it's a nice trait. I mean, it's not something I would encourage because I think games of football are there to be won, and you should put your serious penalty taker on all the time. But you can't grumble at the trait. I think the trait is like a nice thing to have. It shows good camaraderie between the squad. It's just like when Anthony has that, they've taken a penalty for us before, even in shootouts. I'm not sure. So I was a bit anxious watching that. I mean, you're only 1-0 up against Barnsley. And look, this is going to sound silly, but I remember it's not too long ago, maybe only 3 years ago, we lost to Rochdale in the League Cup at Old Trafford. Rochdale beat us at Old Trafford in the League Cup. That's happened, everyone.
Well, we conceded like 20 shots against Newport not that long ago, so yeah. It has been a trait of United this season, been much more secure.
Yeah,
little change in the tactical system, not quite so stretched. Although we are only 5 games into the season, so I don't know that we can say for sure that United have changed. Did quite well to press Barnsley into a lot of mistakes last night. I mean, you'd expect them to not be able to play it out from the back, so it's a winning strategy. Really didn't against Southampton, so something we went into in some more depth on the tactics pod. Patreon.com/NQAT pod if you want to check that one out. Talking about United's pressing in particular, because it's one of those things still not quite as advanced. The out of possession part of this team is not quite as advanced as the in possession part of this team, I think. And we weren't really tested defensively at all last night, and we played some very nice stuff going forward. So I don't know whether that's proving us right there or not, or it was just League One Barnsley and there was soft touch. It was entertaining nonetheless.
For most of it, apart from my grumble for the first 20 odd minutes. But yeah, it did. I mean, I don't know. I feel like if I'm being that I would normally battle back against everything negative that you say about United and sort of try and balance it with the criticisms. I don't want to do that the other way around when you're being fairly positive and I'm going, oh, I know. I just feel like it's too difficult to draw positive conclusions because Barnsley were game for a little bit, but they weren't really poor. And the chances that they gave, because you can tell, as much as I'm saying, oh, it was nice to see the clean goals going, you could also see that a better team would not have conceded those goals.
There was some talk before the game again about Vimal Yoganthan being a very talented player. Didn't look like it last night, but apparently he's a good player. And then Slolina the US international in goal, was pretty terrible last night. One to forget for him. He had something of a reputation. Yeah. I mean, I guess the other notable point about United was Toby Collier starting at left back. Ten Hag really likes to play defensive midfielders at left back and not Harry Amos. I don't know the status of Harry's fitness or anything like that, but it's one of those weird things. He was so good on pre-season tour. You're like, oh, he's not far away from slotting into the team. And then Ten Hag kind of cooled down all that talk by saying he was, some distance away from the first team. And so we're like, oh, okay, well, he's going to spend the next 6 months training with the first team and maybe get a League Cup game, but he didn't. I wasn't on the bench either.
Yeah, for that reason, I think he's probably got a knock or something, because I can't imagine why he's not there and why he would have resorted to playing Collier there. So everyone was assuming that Evans would play there when the lineup was announced. Collier he got better as the game went on. He struggled earlier on, but I think also sometimes in games like that, it's not Sofian Amrabat playing a left back, but it's not a million miles away from that, because that's the same principle. And he's testing the player to see if he's capable, because really, if you think about it, because the Ten Hag's fullbacks do come in to play defensive midfield, it's kind of like the traits of one or the traits of another. So he's saying, all right, well, against Barnsley, he should be good enough to come into that. And obviously Evans and Maguire were spreading at that point, so he was supposed to come in there. But Barnsley were having most joy through their right back. He was having a nice time there, and they'd obviously looked at where Collier was playing. They'd heard the rumour that he was going to be playing at left back, so they've obviously had a plan earlier on to just target that area as much as you can. That's where they had most joy. If they had joy, their right back played all right for the first half. And then once United got 2 or 3 goals in front, Collier was able to come into midfield and express himself a lot more, and he wasn't struggling. Yeah. Where I felt like that first 20 minutes in particular, again, only the first 20 minutes, they were trying to turn him over and get him facing the wrong way, and they succeeded in that a couple of times, which, considering that nothing bad came of it, I think is in York 0-3. So I would say that that's a valuable lesson without a consequence. Like, here I am giving you all the negative flashbacks here. I'm doing York City and Rochdale and Coventry City.
You want to bring Milton Keynes into this one?
I'm going through the Old Trafford playbook.
No, just the Old Trafford, not the game that provoked Van Gaal to pull out the firing squad and sack a bunch of players. Yeah, wow, that was bad. Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to provide any kind of deep analysis about this game, isn't it? Other than, hey, it was great fun.
Yeah,
I thoroughly enjoyed it, and that has not often enough been the case, especially over the last year or so. The big positives: Rashford's goals, minutes for Eriksen, full debut for Ugarte, Casemiro, I think, is going to morph into an auxiliary number 8 and rotation with Mainu, and Ugarte will play most of the games now. I suspect that's what's going to happen. I think that's good for United, good for Casemiro as well. Different role where he's going to shine more. A goal for Anthony, I guess. I mean, he's after Ahmad's performance against Southampton, though, he's very much back up to Ahmad now. I would say it's up to him. As Ten Hag said, he has to win his way back into the team by training hard. But Ahmad topped every single metric at the weekend. I was looking back at all the data, and he's vastly improved. So 100 million euros on the bench there with Anthony. Awesome. But he got some minutes. No fresh injuries, I think. De Ligt came on, didn't he? So him hobbling off at the weekend was just cramp, as he said. So Mount and Shaw were training today as well. So we're almost at a fully fit squad. So
it's old, And the other thing was Garnacho. I mean,
he's electric, isn't he? Especially, it's like, how do you keep him out the side? You got Rashford scoring twice, Ahmad being very good this season, and Garnacho's he's got something, hasn't he?
Yeah. Well, I would say it's a call between Garnacho and Ahmad for the weekend. I would stick with Ahmad because of the fact I don't think it hurts to have. It does hurt if Garnacho's brother starts getting a bit annoyed and starts tweeting about it, and because Garnacho does seem to be the more tempestuous of the three. So it worries me in that regard, but not so much that I don't think it's a bad thing to have a hungry player who's playing well.
Well, he signed that new contract, so he's not going to agitate him for a move to Real Madrid just yet.
Yeah, just yet.
We'll give that another year.
Let's use the Ronaldo comparison, not to say that it'll be like Ronaldo, but just in terms of progression, because people will want to do that, and that's his idol. By the way, I love the fact that he does that celebration, even though Di Maria told him not to do it. It's just the best. I don't know, just the childishness in me loves that he continues to do it. And Casemiro tried to stop him. He's like, no. He's like, I'm going to do it anyway. Anyway, back to the trajectory. I think of Ronaldo's first two seasons, 2003 to 2005. I really Garnacho's only had a season and a half. Ronaldo, 04-05, was he at this level? Possibly there. 05-06 was when he really started to flourish, and he really sort of went like up like that. You knew how good he was going to be. There was a lot of frustration in the first 2 years.
Yeah.
And you do get that with Nacho, and I think he's really been in and out, and I think there's an obvious case to say he will be the main man of those three. I think he's probably got the most talent, or the highest ceiling of the three. But where it is right now, it's probably to United's benefit to keep trying with Rashford, even though I was critical of him on the last podcast. But what I wanted to see is this kind of response, and we've seen it. Ahmad is obviously... the improvement in him is so vast that you don't want to disrupt that momentum. All right, I've got my doubts on whether or not he'll be there for the long term, but right now, as I say, future, probably that's Garnacho's spot, but right now, I should build his confidence because he's definitely, for this season, good enough to be a squad player. So all those things are in place nicely. I just hope that Garnacho understands that that's good for his development as well, because if he does, that's obviously all United's major threat is going to come from those areas. All right,
yeah.
Oyland and Zirkzee. I mean, Zirkzee has looked very nice in the last couple of games because I think it's no coincidence that you've got the greater performances from the wide players that have enabled or then lifted some of that stress from the central player, that they've been able to play with. Well, Zirkzee in particular has been able to play with a little bit more liberation, a little more comfortable on the ball. So all of those things are good, but I do have to say, as glorious as it was to see Rashford scoring, just to wax lyrical about that first goal again, seeing Garnacho the way that he is sometimes, like, the first finish was outstanding. I know it looked like a tap in, but the way that he moved and stabbed first time, even when you look on the replay, it looks like a magician's trick, really, that how quickly he stabbed it. And then the second one, obviously, everyone likes to see a run from halfway and stab it in there, like the composure to be able to do it, especially after he missed the Fulham tap in. Yeah. So to be able to show the composure to be able to do that, these are all lessons that he's learning. And if he's learning them, then that's only a good thing for us.
Yes, I mean, like, technically, in terms of movement, he's got a very, very high ceiling. Will he do the thing that Ronaldo did, which is learn how to get into the right positions to score a lot of goals? We know that Rashford can score many goals. He got 30 goals 2 seasons ago, and he's had a couple of 20-goal seasons as well. Yeah. I would expect, if he's feeling confident in this kind of form, that he's perfectly capable of scoring 20-plus goals this season. Rashford, like, it's confidence, isn't it, with him? Like, everything seems to stem from that. And then with Garnacho, will he learn that last bit, which is when to make the runs, the timing of the runs? If he can put 20-plus goals on the board, they're going to be a very good team this season.
Can I a point that you just made there, which I really think is compelling, is the one about Rashford and his confidence. You only see it like maybe 3 or 4 years down the line when a footballer's gone through a crisis of confidence. But we know that that's a big thing with Marcus. You can see that it's tracked in his performance levels throughout the last 5 years.
Yeah.
All right, 1 season or 12 to 18 months, you might attribute that to a back and shoulder injury that he had. But by and large, you would say, all right, you can see dips of crisis in confidence. Would you, I'm just asking you, like, as a person, as a fan, would you like to see Marcus come out and say, like, give a full confessional about it, to like sit down either to the club or to Sky or TNT or something like that, a pre-match interview where he actually talked openly about that, to say, look, you know what I mean? Like, because he's still at the peak of his powers. There's still a very high risk that, like, let's say, hopefully he plays very well this season, but then you're thinking, oh, will next season be another dip? So being consciously aware of how that can affect him, and then people would say, oh, he's going through another thing. Is it more power to him if he does that? And this is, by the way, when I'm asking this question, I'm asking it with the full knowledge of you knowing who Marcus Rashford is as a footballer, as a kind of footballing politician, considering everything that he's done in the past, to come out and speak openly about that. Do you think it would be a positive thing, or do you think it would be something that's negative for him?
No, I don't see it as negative. I mean, if he wants to talk to the press, he's talking to the fans, and I think that's always valuable for footballers. Many of them don't want to engage. I guess the question is, does Marcus know what went wrong for him last season? Why, tactical, mental, confidence? Are there things that happened behind the scenes that we don't know about that impacted what was going on? Does he want to talk about them? Because I don't know that that's true of all players. But yeah, maybe he wants to do a Players Tribune thing. Or he can always, at any point, Marcus, if you're listening, you're welcome to come on the pod and we can talk about it.
He did do a coach's voice, didn't he? Maybe about a year ago. Right. It was really good. I think it was coach's voice. It might have been Tribune. It was one of those, but it was a long read and it was really good.
Yeah.
But obviously, I'm saying that as like, when does a player ever come out and speak that openly and vulnerably about something like that, knowing that it could be held against him in the future? And also, if he did that, is he putting his hand up in the air and sort of like saying I was culpable for underperformance, when that's not really what I'm saying. I'm saying personal accountability for, like, this is not what this is a part of who I am. I do have crisis of confidence. And maybe, top level footballer doesn't want to show weakness. He doesn't want to show
exactly. Yeah. Aaron Ramsdale a little while ago came out and said that sometimes he loses concentration in games. So that he was like absolutely pelted for that. Yeah. That wasn't a moment of vulnerability that showed him as a real human. He was like, "Your shit, get out," basically, and that was just Mikel Arteta's reaction. So, like, there's certainly risk for a footballer coming out and saying anything other than pure confidence all the time. And of course, fans don't like that. I mean, Marcus seems to be extremely polarizing, and for no real reason. Like, politically, he was polarizing because he wanted to feed hungry kids. I don't know why that should be politically polarizing, but it was. I mean, is there anyone out there who's listening that wants kids to go hungry? No, right? This one should be easy, but that seems to cause a storm. And then obviously there's certain United fan outlets who seem to create a bandwagon of negativity around Marcus as well. It seemed to be his fault all of the time when United weren't winning. And that seemed to seep into the general online discourse and even maybe offline as well. I mean, I found it pretty shocking when he was booed by the crowd for turning back and retaining possession a couple of weeks ago, but he was, and I feel like that's an online thing that has come out. So, yeah, it's a challenging one with Marcus. Yeah, we'd like to hear from him, but I don't think he would want to feed any perceived negativity. And then there's this whole thing around him that anytime he says anything, does anything, makes any kind of announcement, it's dismissed as PR. Which is really very odd, isn't it? When the player wants to come out and talk to the fans, it's dismissed like that.
He's a very open guy, and I will say that this is probably something that he will talk about when, at the end of his career. So I look forward to that, and I look forward to the way that he will articulate that as well. It's just, I think you're right in the way that you're saying about the way that the online voice kind of contributes to the narrative around him. I don't get that, because I think, like, here you've got someone who's a great example of what United's academy is supposed to represent. I'm reminded of a couple of years ago when I was working with the twins, Raphael and Fabio, on their book, and Fabio was quite open, speaking about dealing with anxiety. Obviously, this is with the benefit of having long left Old Trafford, but it was very interesting and compelling. So if someone speaks so openly about the pressures of playing at United at that level, I think unquestionably Rashford's under a lot more scrutiny than Fabio was, and he's like you said, for some reason, polarising figure, when I think that he's just an example of everything that's supposed to be right about our academy. It's someone we should be immensely proud of. Someone I don't even know him, but I'm definitely proud of who he is in terms of what he represents for United and all the things I was just talking about with regards the confidence issues. I would want to hear him, of all people, talk about it because it would add weight and it would add value. However, considering everything I've just said in the context there, that he's a high-level professional who wouldn't want to show weakness as an athlete, then I can understand why. Or it's perceived as a weakness that he wouldn't want to do that while he's still playing.
Yeah, no, I totally understand the risk associated there. Yeah, Fabio, I sat next to him on a trip to Rio once. I've told this anecdote before, and I roasted him for the full 12 hours of the flight, and that's what destroyed his confidence. No, I did not. But
there you go.
There you go.
Cool.
All right. I guess that's Barnsley, isn't it? And we managed to squeeze half an hour of pod out there talking about Barnsley. And after I said several times, there's really nothing to talk about in this game. We just smashed them. It was great.
Yeah.
So there are bigger challenges to come at the weekend. So we have Crystal Palace away. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah.
I've got this one right. Yeah. Keep getting myself confused in terms of the order of things. Palace away and then FC 20 at home the week afterwards in the fantastic Europa League.
Yeah.
Joyous. Palace away's not an easy one. Interesting side, Palace now under Oliver Glasner, because they've obviously lost the key player in Michael Elise.
Yeah. They
kept Mateta, who was of interest to several clubs, I think, and they kept Eze as well, who's a beautiful looking player. His numbers aren't awesome, but he looks very nice. Apparently of interest to United as well. So reports go. Who knows?
Well, we have recent enough memory of all three of those players ripping us to shreds. Thankfully, one of them's gone away to now do well in the Champions League for Bayern Munich. Yeah. The other two are still there. They'll be a menace to us at the weekend for sure. We don't have a good record there. There have been some really tough... I'm talking recently, we don't have a good record there. And I think we were a lot better against Southampton. Obviously better again against Barnsley. And I think where I was talking a couple of weeks ago and I said it's not just about results, it's about performances, crucially now, because how long can you get away with saying, United just need a result, they just need results at this point. Ten Hag needs performances, and he's getting them slowly but surely. You're starting to see what we look like. You're starting to see, all right, even his boldest critics in the last couple of weeks are kind of going, all right, more of this, please. And we need to see that against Palace being a tougher proposition than the two games that we've just faced. And also, because I didn't feel what we saw from against Southampton, I didn't feel like that was a reaction to what happened against Liverpool. Right, you want to see reactions. Even in Ten Hag's first season, we did see a reaction against Liverpool because it was after the Brentford humiliation. There's nothing to react against this time around, but apart from the fact that we were humiliated against Palace.
Yeah, they battered us last time. Yes, some revenge, but maybe that's more for the fans than the team. I mean,
there's no reaction in sort of the heat of the moment. There's nothing to sort of go get the backs up and say, all right, we've got to step up to this level, because they're actually ticking along nicely in the last couple of weeks. So they need to sort of keep that going. But that's what I mean about the confidence, because now is a time of all of the players are getting back. Performances now will dictate selection rather than injuries and underperformance. That's what I'm saying about it being a good problem with Garnacho and a good problem with Casemiro and Ugarte there, and a good problem for Dalot, because he's really now got to step up because Wave Shaw's back. And Mazraoui's been outstanding this season and really transformative. So I mean, we're getting to the point where there's real competition in several. And those players, those players do need to, against Palace, that's another step for them to say, all right, well, we're not only individually playing well, but this is how good we are as a unit, because a player like Dalot, for example, can play well individually, but he needs to impress in this unit, because that's his position that's at risk for when Shaw comes back. And so he needs to say, all right, I'm good individually, but I'm also good in some of these parts. considering that Ugarte is going to be playing there. All those forward places are up for grabs, but Mainu and Fernandez are going to be playing. There are definite players who are going to be starting. De Ligt and Martinez for the near future will definitely be that central too as well. So, and that, like I said at the start, before I started rambling about this, that's the best problem that Ten Hag could possibly have in this situation. But the United do need to start performing, because if not, then the finger starts going straight back on the manager. And I still think,
for sure.
All right, it's a good run, but that good run needs to be 8, 9, 10 games of good results, good performance.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Pressure straight back on Ten Hag if United manage to blow this one. I guess there aren't too many questions. There's a question around who plays in the front three. Let's assume Zirkzee is back in the side, and then it's 2 from Rashford, Ahmad and Garnacho, and then at the back pretty much picks itself, doesn't it? It's going to be Mazraoui, De Ligt, Martinez and Dalot, and Nana will come back in goal. And then the big question really is, does Ugarte start in midfield? Does Ten Hag feel like he's got enough minutes in the legs to do that, or is it going to be Casemiro, Mainu or Eriksen? I mean, assuming since Eriksen played the full game last night, or near enough, I can't remember now, that he won't start the weekend. But yeah, who knows?
Yeah, that's a question mark over. Did Ugarte play the full game
last night?
Yeah,
I feel like he came off, but I actually don't remember. So
I know he definitely played a good part of the second half, because I was surprised he didn't bring him off.
No, he came off on the 62nd minute.
Okay, so he played a decent part.
Eriksen played the full game, yeah.
What about Casemiro? How long did he play for?
He played the full game.
Okay, so you would presume Ugarte will be the one in there, because the other two will be knackered.
Yeah, there's the signal there, isn't there?
Hopefully.
And as for Palace, I mean, it's kind of interesting. Glasner got them playing completely differently, more energetic, didn't he, towards the back end of last season. They've been playing 3 at the back this season. They had kind of mixed results. Good comeback against Chelsea, lost against West Ham, if I'm right, remembering that right. And then playing this kind of 3-5-2 system with Mateta and Nketiah up front. Mateta scored a bunch of goals last season, looks a good player. Nketiah, I never got. I don't understand him. Yeah. He's barely ever scored any goals ever, and Arsenal managed to squeeze 25 million plus out of Palace for him. Like, how? And apparently there were lots of clubs interested. Like, what? This is almost guaranteed that he scores the winner now. I've said that.
Yeah, I think, like I was saying in the summer, like there's a bit of an Arsenal hype train that always comes with the kids that they've got, and they either manage to capitalise on that by selling them on for inflated fees, or they play themselves into crapness, which has happened. I mean, we were going through the Barnsley names from '97 earlier, but I think there's plenty of examples of Arsenal players over the years that you can say that were overhyped to incredible levels. Nketiah is all right. He scored against us before, and I think he's handy, but obviously he's ceiling and he didn't progress from there. But I think Palace is probably his level. A team where he will always look like he could play a better team. If you get what I mean, you always think, like Zaha for a long time, he was kind of comfortable there because it was like he can the Lee Trundle effect. You know, someone.
Oh God, Lee Trundle.
Yeah, it's only because of the Barclaysman trend of late, and he came. Like people talking about him on the back of that. And what I mean is, obviously, he looks great at the level that he was playing at, and like, you know, a mini Letitia without the tin foil. And you think, well, he might be good. You might like to see him play. Oh, was it? No, Tarat. Tarat was a good player, but he had the attitude. But yeah, a player like Trundle, who you would never imagine taking that leap because you think he's comfortable at the level that he's at. And Nketiah doesn't have that kind of on the ball ability, magic kind of thing. But you know what I'm trying to say. You'll find his feet at that level, and you'll say, "Oh, a bigger club should be like maybe Arsenal." Whenever we let a player go, it's always like, "Oh, United made a mistake because they've impressed in this game or that game." Where we know because we've seen that player often enough to draw that conclusion. But having said that, like you said, you'll probably score 2 at the weekend and they'll look brilliant.
Yeah, the other interesting Palace player that I haven't mentioned, of course, is Adam Wharton, who went to the Euros with England, didn't play, but everyone likes the look of him. And I guess next summer there'll be something of a major auction for his services. He would be a very fine addition to United's squad, I would say.
Yeah, no, yeah.
But then
I think
there'll be a lot of players teams thinking that.
Yeah, well, United in particular, because I think Casemiro, Eriksen, all for going, and he seems like a very, very obvious candidate to come in and step up. United, probably the biggest issue is going to come either from I don't think they'll neglect Eze and Mateta because they caused them too many problems last season, but I think that they might not neglect, but it might be a bit of a blind spot with Wharton, because I'm not saying he's going to dominate our midfield. I don't mean that, but I feel like if you concentrate too much on the other areas and you neglect, I would just tie him down. I'd tell Cobby to cause trouble with him, because if he can neutralise a player who can cause damage like he can cause, who can run the game in a different kind of way, our players don't tend to. You might consider this to be a strength, really, but they don't. Our midfielders don't, apart from Ugarte, he might be the perfect player to do this. They're not trouble sniffers. They like to play in front of the opponent, which often means that we're caught out with like a chasm in midfield behind us. And obviously that's where Wharton will cause lots of damage. So you need to be able to be proactive in front of that, even if it means sacrificing a player, because the point is winning a game of football. And if you lose one of your players to neutralise one of theirs, especially when it's a player as talented as what he is, then it's worth that risk. I just don't know if we will, because I think we'll be concentrating too much on the fact that Eze and Mateta grabbed the headlines last season when they ripped us to shreds.
Well, I just have a whisper in Manuel Ugarte's ear and tell him that Adam Wharton's insulted Uruguay. He looks like he's got a short fuse. Anyway, Manuel Ugarte.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, that's all good. Before we go, did you catch Phil Jones talking about his career? We haven't heard much from Phil Jones, who officially retired. He's had a year off and then officially retired, and did interviews talking about his career. And he said he bumped into some people on the street who had said, "Oh, hi, Phil Jones. Shame about your career." And he was like, "Hang on, I played 200 games for United, and I was 10 years at Old Trafford, and I went to 2 World Cups and stuff. You know, everyone would kill for that kind of career." And he's right. It's just that he didn't hit the heights we thought. He wasn't the best player ever for Manchester United, as Fergie said he would be. And mostly that's down to injuries.
Yeah. Remember the context of this, right? So that comment, all right, I see where you're coming from. But this is a player who also said he wouldn't have a testimonial because no one would turn up. So there's no grandeur about him. I just think that maybe he's had enough, quite rightly, of 5 years, maybe even longer, of being mocked because of the injury record that he had. Yeah. And so he's stepping back. Maybe he's had a lot of people around him telling him to hold his head up because he went to 2 World Cups, because he's played 200 games for United. He had a really good reception when he came, when we talked about it on this podcast. I think that's when I was coming on here more regularly, just when Jones came back into the side, right? I remember vividly talking about him, and actually played well in the game, but then obviously it wasn't going to last because he was knackered, but fair enough. But yeah, I know, I get what you're saying, and what I don't like is the snarkiness from people on the street who do it. And not in a case of what have you ever done? I don't mean that, but I feel like we, as a population, but generally a football public, have this feel like we need to put people in their place. Definitely not you and I, because I don't think we would do something quite as pathetic as that. But imagine going up to someone and telling them, "Oh, shame about your career."
Yeah,
but this guy,
I know.
He won Premier League titles. Like, he's not. I get. Like, all right, there's an idea that he didn't achieve what people thought he would have achieved, but let's reframe what greatness is, right? And I'm sorry to go off on a tangent. You only want to talk and make a casual point about Phil Jones, but I'm talking about like definitions of greatness. Definitions of greatness are there to be established. The elite, the few reach that level. United are lucky that we've had a lot of people, because we've won 20 league titles, 13 of them in living memory, that we can reel off great players, and we can talk about with more oomph a great team assembled from those players in a better way than what Liverpool fans can, because they've only got this team to think about. Whereas we've got a little bit of objectivity against our own players to sort of say, no, that player's not quite there, or blah, 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 blah. And Phil Jones, all right, he's not going to fit. You won't talk about him in greatest all-time United 11s, but he did have the potential to be there at one time. And it wasn't his fault that he didn't make that. It wasn't due to attitude. It wasn't due to anything other than bad luck, really. All right.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have been I think it's fair to say, he wouldn't have been at Duncan Edwards. He probably, even if he'd achieved everything that his potential had allowed, if his potential suggested that he could achieve, we still would be sat here not including him in an all-time best 11.
Sure.
But I still find it a little bit difficult to stomach when people are unnecessarily harsh about someone who has been through a lot like he did.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. He became a meme, and it's unfortunate and unfair on him. And he made it to 1% of academy players will ever make it into the Premier League or something like that. It's a really tiny figure, and a fraction of those will make it an international level, and a fraction of those will go to 2 World Cups and so on. So it might not have been the completely stellar career that his talent suggested it could be, but it was very, very good career and marred by injuries. He also had a very elastic face, which I think in the internet age was just something. But by the way, I would never go up to a player and abuse them in the street. I just find that just totally odd. The only time I've ever abused a player was when Chris Waddle dived to win a penalty for Sheffield Wednesday in 1992, 93, and then he came off as a sub. And quite a few of us had words and may have suggested that his parentage was illegitimate on a few occasions. And he gave a bit back as well. So there you go.
Yeah, well, I will say that on closing on Phil Jones, yes, the 1 inch from the floor clearance with the header against Arsenal, which
magic. We'll always have that.
Exactly. And then people take the piss out of that when they see it. It's because he's
great. It's a great saving header.
It's because he's planking 1 inch from the floor, which seems physically impossible to do, and it's humorous to look at. But if you watch that, I defy anyone to watch that and say that's not fantastic defending. Which they used to say about Brian Robson, didn't they? That his fault was that he put himself on the line too many times. And Jones, perhaps if he could be critical of him, you would say, knowing that he was made of brittle stuff, he was still reckless enough to put himself where it hurt. Yeah. Which is really, I'm being critical, but I'm praising him for that. I'm saying, no, you put yourself there even though you knew it was going to cost you. And no, I don't like hearing things like when a player says, "Oh, no one will turn up for my testimonial" and such so on, because all right, by the time he reached 10 years, he'd barely played for the last 5 of them. But I feel like, all right, don't get the testimonial. I can understand why you wouldn't want to take that, but let's not stand in the street and tell him he had a bad career when, we would all kill for a couple of Premier League medals.
Absolutely. And so we'll close with Brian Robson. Norman Whiteside put out a picture on Twitter. Him, Brian Robson, and Paul McGrath. What a trio. All drinking water, I might add, in that photo, which is not what they like to drink when they were players. We'll leave it there. You can catch us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky, and Threads, all under NQAT Pod. You can catch Wayne at Wayne S. Barton. I think you're on other platforms as well. I can't remember now. You're on Instagram, aren't you?
Yeah, and I've just joined Blue Sky as well, so yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Shame it's called Blue. Maybe we should start another social network called Red Sky.
Let's do it.
Yeah. You can also catch this on YouTube if you're not watching there already. We do some extra content there as well. And if you want to get our backers shows, you can get those on patreon.com or Apple Podcast subscribers. Thanks a lot for listening, watching, and your support. Bye now.